Hey everyone, welcome to How You Can Understand God. My name is Papa Walt, and we are going to talk about another covenant. And that covenant is going to be the one that God made with a man named Moses. And Moses was probably known by most everyone as the guy with the 10 Commandments coming off the mountain. And, if you've ever seen any movies, the lightning and the thunder and the clouds and all this stuff like that. But there's a lot more to Moses than just the 10 Commandments. But I want to get into that lesson today. But real quickly, I want to remind you, do your homework. Look up these scriptures I put on the screen. Take the time to read that Bible. Where you're going to need to start now when I start with Moses is in the book of Exodus. And I want to remind you that the first 5 books of the Bible are Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They were written by Moses. But you'll start in the book of Exodus, and you'll see it says, usually have a heading that says the birth of Moses, and you'll see the whole story of Moses just interwoven through that thing, and everything that he went through as he delivered the children of Israel out of Egypt. Now, the children of Israel out of Egypt came from Abraham and his sons and the descendants down, and they ended up settling in Egypt, where they did become slaves. They were just work horses. That's what they were. But during that time, they started to multiply. They started having babies right and left, right and left, right and left. And what had happened was the Egyptians got scared and said, hey, whoa, man, these folks they're getting numerous, and I got a feeling they're going to take us over. So Pharaoh put down a decree that all the male children were to be slain. I cannot imagine what that was like. All of the male children. I can't imagine the grief and the heartache that parents went through when that took place. But that was Egypt, and that was Pharaoh. And that just shows you how selfish one man can be when he wants something. All right. Moses was about 3 months old when that decree went down. He had a mother named Jochebed. Like any mother, she wanted to save her child at any cost. And that cost to her was weaving a basket, putting Moses in that basket, and shoving it down the Nile River and hoping for the best. Moses had a sister, an older sister named Miriam. So Miriam followed that basket down the Nile River. Well, that day, Pharaoh's daughter happened to decide, hey, I need a bath. So she goes out to the Nile River to bathe, and guess what she spots? The basket. So she sends her handmaidens to go bring the basket to her. She opens it up and there's a baby. And she's like, wow, a baby, a beautiful baby. She decided that she was going to raise that baby on her own. Somehow, some way, Miriam, the sister of Moses, was close by. And she called her over and said, hey, do you know anybody that could help me raise this child? I mean, I'm the princess and I got a lot of things to do. I'm wondering what she had to do. And help me raise this child? And Miriam, the sister, said, I know just the woman. I know just who. I'll be right back. Well, guess who she went and got? Moses' mother, Jochebed. People, I'm here to tell you, if God, the master engineer, didn't orchestrate that, who did? Who did? Because that was part of his plan. That is the awesome God that we serve. So anyway, Jochebed comes into the household of Pharaoh and helps raise Moses. Now, Moses was raised as an Egyptian. He got the best education. He got the best teachers. He got the best of the best of the best. I mean, he didn't go without a meal. He didn't go without anything. And neither did his mother, because she was the one raising him up. But guess what? During those bedtime stories, during those times when she was raising him and training him, do you not think there were times that Jochebed, his mother, said, Moses, you're a Hebrew. And this is who you are, and this is who you come from. Do you not think she reminded him or told him what and who he really was? And it worked, because at the age of 40, Moses decided to cast his lot with the Israelites. How that kind of came about was he went and he looked and he watched his own people being brutally just suffering from Egypt and the way that they were being treated. But one day there was an argument between an Israelite and an Egyptian. Moses took it into his own hands. He went and he killed the Egyptian and he buried him in the sand. At that time, he knew some way that he was the one that was going to deliver his people out of Egypt. The problem was, there's always somebody watching. Somebody else saw what he did. Somebody else saw him kill that Egyptian and bury him. Because the next day, there were two Israelites having an argument. And so Moses thinking, hey, I'm the guy. I know how to handle this. Let me show you how to do this. He comes to settle it, to be the mediator. And guess what? The two Israelites looked at him and said, hey, dude, you think you're going to settle an argument between us? You're going to kill one of us like you killed the Egyptian? There's always somebody watching. Remember that. Moses realized he was wrong. He made a mistake. He was ahead of his time. He was 40 years old, but he was ahead of his time. He was ahead of what he knew he was supposed to do. So it says that Moses fled to a place called Midian. Midian was a long way from Egypt. And he came upon a priest named Jethro. And Jethro took him in. Jethro took him in and put him on the backside, the hired hand to help with the flocks. And he did it for 40 years. Moses worked on the backside. During that 40 years was a time of self-reflection, was a time of maybe asking some hard questions we all ask, especially those of us that lived in the world. You know, is there a God? Is there really a God? I mean, why am I here on this earth? Do you not think Moses has some of those questions? I thought I was supposed to help these people, and then I get in trouble, and I got to get out of Dodge, and I got to go over here and live like this sheep herder or whatever he was, for 40 more years. Here I am, 80 years old, and I ain't done nothing. How many of us felt that way? It was self-reflection, which is good. And then God appeared to him at the age of 80 and called him out. God always had a call on his life, all the way back from saving him, being found by Pharaoh's daughter, being raised in leadership, Egyptian leadership. Those were smart folks. Being raised in a household, having every meal, having everything that he needed, being raised for this moment. But now he's an old shepherd. I don't know what he had, but all he had was now a chance to get before himself, stripped down in front of God. Here I am. And God appeared to him at a burning bush. A bush that was on fire, but was not burning up, that was not smoking, that was not being destroyed. A miracle. And as Moses looked at it, he wondered, what is this? And this is what he heard. Moses, Moses, come no closer, for the place where you stand is holy ground. I have seen the affliction of my people and how the Egyptians' slave masters oppress them. He's seen it for 400 years. Come now, and I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. That was the call. That was the vision. That was the commission. It was time now to do it. It took 40 years later, because you know why? Because a lot of us will have a vision and we just jump right into it. We do the practical. We say, Lord, I'm ready to do this. Bam, and we do it. I've done it myself more than once. God has to grow us into that vision. He has to put us in valleys. He has to put us in hard times. He has to purify us and get us ready so when the vision and the calling that He has for our life comes, we will then be ready. And if we try to do it before that, we're going to fail just like Moses failed. And we're going to run and flee from it because we feel like we've made the biggest mistake of our life and God is never going to use us again. That is an absolute lie from Satan himself. God's call on your life never stops. You might get detoured, you might get delayed, but the call's coming. And when you answer it, God's going to make it happen. And He's going to use you to do it. What was the revelation that Moses saw in the burning bush? First thing he saw was an eternal God, an invisible God. And it changed him forever. He received two things. He received the revelation that God was eternal, self-existent, and He was the one true God. You see, he was raised in an Egyptian household. He was raised under the roof of people that I don't know how many gods they had. But they worshiped other gods, all kinds of gods. Frogs, lice, the river, cattle. They worshiped all kinds of God, but Moses saw the one true God now, and he was forever changed. There would be never would be another God except God Almighty. And he saw the vision this time. I am the one that I am to deliver my people, and I'm ready now to do it. I'm 80 years old, but I'm ready to do it. And that's what he saw. Well, how did God get Moses ready if he's going to be delivered and he's 80 years old? Remember I told you he was raised in the Egyptian household, the educations, not doing without. He was raised in leadership. The Egyptians were smart people, but he was raised in leadership and he knew how to do it. He was a little rusty. He was going to need some help because he got slow in his speech. Physically, I'm sure he was a little bit slow. Little side note here is, and I'm speaking to me, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. Right now, as I make this video, I play guitar and my calluses on my fingers, which they're getting a little thin after every shower. And I can tell, boy, you better pick up that guitar and start doing it again. I do studio work and I stay up to date on that. But the last several weeks, I've gotten a little lazy. So I've got to get back to using it so I don't lose it. And that's what you need to do too. What God's put in you, do not put it on the shelf. Use it to the best of your abilities. And when the call comes, you will be ready to do it. Okay? Moses knew he was slow in speech. He says, how am I going to, what, me go in front of Pharaoh? I mean, he knows me and he knew what I did, and I'm going to go back to Pharaoh and I'm going to, what am I supposed to say? And God told him, he says, you go to Pharaoh and you tell him, let my people go. Well, who do I tell him sent me? God said, you tell him the I am sent you. I am who I am has sent me. I am sent Moses. And he was going to Pharaoh, the top dog over Egypt. Pharaoh probably could have had him killed the moment he stepped in the courtyard, but he didn't. And Moses went to him 10 times, saying, let my people go. Bible says, and God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And every time that he did that, God gave Moses the ability to call down 10 plagues upon the Egyptian people to change the mind of Pharaoh and the heart of Pharaoh. But it didn't happen. Let's end it right there because the story gets a lot better. I want to remind you to start reading in your Bible the account of Moses. That will help you gain some understanding of what I'm teaching here. Okay? All right. See you on the next video.